Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we take a stack of sources and distill them into the most essential knowledge you need, complete with those surprising insights that really stick with you. Today, we are strapping in for a deep dive into what might be the most classic, painful business lesson out there.
The inventory disaster.
Exactly. Our mission is to analyze how one entrepreneur's massive, costly failure, an impulsive decision that tied up over $100,000, didn't just wound his company. It actually became a masterclass that completely redefined his entire strategy around cash flow and operations. We are starting with a truly shocking number. Of that massive capital outlay, $30,000. A huge sum for a growing startup was spent on just one thing.
Not even the product itself?
Nope. Product packaging.
Wow.
So our case study focuses on Chen. He's the founder of a successful direct-consumer watch company. And this isn't a story about a company that's, failing to launch.
Right, they were already doing well.
They were humming along. This was back in 2019, heading into 2020. They were selling about 200 watches a month, consistently. And critically, maintaining this really healthy 15% quarter-over-quarter growth. Marcus had momentum.
And maybe a little too much confidence.
That's where it gets interesting. November 2020. This is the moment where good intentions just collide with a really bad deal. A supplier contacts Marcus with what seemed like a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity.
The irresistible offer.
Totally. Premium watch boxes, the kind that just scream luxury when a customer opens them. They were normally priced at $8 a unit.
Okay, pretty standard.
But the offer was for just $3 each.
Whoa, that's a massive discount.
A huge discount.
Yeah.
Marcus does the quick math in his head.
Yeah.
If he buys enough, he could save $50,000 compared to his normal ordering. And that allure, that immediate massive saving, it was just intoxicating.
I can see the appeal. It feels like you're winning.
And he took the bait. He accepted the deal, committing to a minimum order of 10,000 boxes, $30,000 just poof, gone from his active bank account.
I mean, this is the perfect cautionary tale. What's so fascinating here isn't just the discount, but the fact that Marcus prioritized that big, visible, one-time savings.
The excitement of it.
Yeah, the thrill of the deal. He prioritized that over the core sustainable health of his business. He bought the boxes because they were cheap, not because he actually needed them right then.
And the consequences.
Yeah.
They weren't some abstract problem down the road, were they?
Not at all. If you track the timeline, the consequences hit almost immediately, and they were very, very physical. Within just 3 weeks, that commitment became this logistical, suffocating reality.
You're talking about the arrival of the inventory.
I am. 18 full pallets of watch boxes just arrive at their doorstep.
18 pallets.
And Marcus's company was still lean. They were operating out of a modest 2,000-square-foot warehouse with a core team of just 5 employees handling everything.
18 pallets in 2,000 square feet. That sounds less like a warehouse and more like an obstacle course.
It was an immediate logistical nightmare. Those boxes consumed nearly 40% of their entire physical space. The workflow for those 5 employees who were supposed to be packing and shipping watches was just completely choked.
So they were literally climbing over boxes.
They were spending valuable time maneuvering around these towers of expensive cardboard just to get to their actual sellable stock.
Okay, let's pause on the visible chaos for a second. The physical storage issue, the inefficiency, those were symptoms. What was the actual core financial catastrophe hidden under all that cardboard? It wasn't just a bad line item on the P&L, was it?
Oh, it was so much worse. It fundamentally crippled their operational potential right at a critical growth moment. The core problem was locked up capital. That $30,000 wasn't just sitting there. It had turned into completely inactive, stagnant inventory.
Unpack that distinction for us. Why is stagnant inventory so much worse than, say, a delayed investment?
Because it wasn't working for the company. I mean, think about what that $30,000 could have done. He had that 15% growth rate, right?
Yeah, he should have been fueling that fire.
Exactly. That money couldn't be invested in a critical Google Ads campaign to get new customers. It couldn't be used to speed up product development, like paying a designer for new watch models. It couldn't even be used to negotiate better, shorter payment terms with his main manufacturer. That capital was just dead.
So even though they needed packaging to ship watches, the timing was just all wrong.
That's exactly the question Marcus wishes he'd asked himself. But here's the real kicker. The final, devastating punch of this whole disaster.
Well, there's more.
There's more. Obsolescence. The watch industry, especially in that fast-moving direct-to-consumer space, it doesn't stand still.
Right.
Within just 6 months of him making that huge commitment, The company pivoted its branding. They launched a new signature watch line, updated the logo, the whole aesthetic,
No. So the 10,000 boxes were suddenly...
featuring the old, outdated brand identity. Precisely. They went from being cheap inventory to obsolete inventory overnight. They were now worth less than the paper they were printed on.
Because using them would actively hurt the new brand.
It would confuse customers, damage the new identity. The 30,000 wasn't just tied up, it was gone, and now they had to spend new capital on new packaging.
That is just a stunning failure. But what makes this a masterclass is what he did next. He recognized the mistake, and fast. Instead of just writing it all off, he deployed this really creative, multi-pronged strategy to recover not just capital, but maybe more importantly, his warehouse space.
Yeah, his recovery plan was brilliant.
Let's break it down. Strategy 1, selling at cost.
He was incredibly resourceful here. He reached out to other smaller watch companies, startups that didn't have the volume to afford custom packaging yet. He offered them these premium boxes at his exact cost.
$3 each.
$3. It wasn't about profit, it was about capital recycling. He managed to move 2,000 boxes pretty quickly, recovering a fast $6,000.
Okay, so a quick win, recycled some cash, but he still had 8,000 boxes left. Strategy 2 was a bit more painful.
It was. This was the necessary pain of liquidation. He contacted specialized packaging brokers, guys who connect sellers with liquidators.
And what did they offer?
They agreed to take another 3,000 boxes off his hands for $1.50 each.
Ouch. Half price.
Half of what he paid, yeah. But this transaction recovered another $4,500, and crucially, it immediately freed up a massive amount of warehouse space. The daily cost of his team climbing over those pallets was finally starting to go away.
The liquidation seems necessary, but the third strategic donation, that's maybe the most clever part, he still had 5,000 boxes left.
And that's where he maximized the loss. The remaining 5,000 boxes were donated to a nonprofit that supports aspiring entrepreneurs just starting their own businesses.
So this did a few things at once.
It did 3 major things. First, a valuable tax deduction, which helps offset the cash loss on the books. Second, it generated goodwill, some positive PR. And third, the most crucial operational element, it finally cleared that disastrous blockage in his warehouse. Instantly.
That balance is fascinating. He took $1.50 per box from a liquidator, but he basically decided the tax deduction and the instant operational efficiency of clearing the last 5,000 units is worth more than trying to squeeze out another few thousand bucks.
Exactly right. If we tally it all up, he spent $30,000, he recovered about $12,000 across all 3 strategies. That's an $18,000 loss on paper.
On paper.
But as you said, this wasn't truly a loss. It was the tuition he paid for an invaluable education. And that hard-won insight directly fueled the company's growth to $5 million in annual revenue within just 3 years, all because he fixed his cash flow.
That's the real lesson. The story isn't the cost, it's the systemic change born from the pain. Let's dive deep into the 3 critical lessons Marcus learned, the systems that completely transformed his business. Lesson number 1, cash is king, not inventory. This failure led him to create what he calls the 60-day rule.
The 60-day rule is simple, it's strict, and it's brilliant. Never, under any circumstances, order more inventory, whether it's watches, parts, or packaging, than can be reasonably sold or used within 60 days.
So this just fundamentally shifts the internal math.
Completely. They stopped asking, how cheap can we buy this? And started asking, what is the opportunity cost of this cash? They now weigh any discount against the immediate growth potential of that capital.
So if that $30,000 could generate a better return somewhere else,
then the bulk discount is forfeited without a second thought. It's not even a debate anymore.
this is the critical distinction, right? It's not comparing $3 a box to $8 a box. It's comparing 30,000 locked in cardboard versus 30,000 invested in, say, Google Ads.
And for a scaling brand like that, $30,000 in targeted advertising could easily bring in 200 or 300 new customers in a couple of months. Customers who buy again, who refer friends. That's capital that's compounding.
Whereas the 30,000 in obsolete boxes generates 0.
Worse than 0, it actively costs you storage space and time.
It just crystallizes the concept. Every dollar sitting in inventory is a dollar that's not actively growing your business. It's a huge mindset shift. Okay. Lesson number 2 moves to a less tangible asset. Build supplier relationships, not transactions.
Right. Marcus stopped chasing those big, tempting, one-time deals that got him into trouble in the first place. He realized his suppliers are partners, not just
So
vendors.
what did that look like in practice?
He implemented mandatory quarterly calls with all his key suppliers. And these weren't just quick logistics check-ins, they were deep discussions. He'd share growth projections, design changes, market trends.
He gave him predictability.
He gave them predictability, and that's currency to them. And here's the really surprising result. His overall per unit costs actually decreased over time, even without the risky bulk orders.
Mhm.
Because suppliers value a reliable, communicative customer. They were willing to offer better long-term pricing to a partner they trusted, rather than some one-off buyer just looking for a fire sale.
That's a major takeaway. Stability can lead to better long-term savings than just aggressive price hunting. Lesson number 3 is maybe the most pragmatic, especially after his brand pivot made his inventory worthless. Plan for pivots. He calls it building pivot capacity.
Yes, Marcus learned that change isn't a possibility, it's a certainty. So now, before any major commitment, he forces his team to ask the key contingency question. What if our brand changes next quarter? What if customer preferences evolve?
And he backed that planning up with a specific financial mechanism, which I think is fascinating. The pivot fund.
Absolutely. The pivot fund is now an integrated, untouchable part of their financial structure. It's 15% of monthly revenue that is immediately set aside.
Just for
Exactly. For unexpected changes or for seizing sudden market opportunities, this gives them the flexibility to adapt instantly, to rebrand, scrap a bad campaign, launch a new product, without the capital paralysis that happens when all your cash is tied up in obsolete stock. It's the cost of being agile.
and he considers it essential now.
He does. And if we connect these 3 lessons to the bigger picture, they apply universally. It doesn't matter if you sell watches or software or services. This is all about efficient capital management.
So for you, the listener, these aren't just stories. They are actionable steps. Based on this, we've got 3 things you can do this week.
Right now.
Action step 1. Run an inventory audit this week, and this has to be a comprehensive audit, not just physical goods. Calculate the cash value tied up everywhere.
That's right. Look at prepaid annual software licenses you barely use. Audit unused subscriptions, or, that retainer you paid to a marketing firm 3 months ago that hasn't delivered.
You have to ask the hard question.
Is the return on this locked capital justifying its existence? Or could that cash be better deployed? That mindset shift from asset to locked liability is really powerful.
Action step 2. Renegotiate based on reliability. Stop chasing the huge bulk discounts that force you to break your own rules.
Instead, change the conversation with your suppliers. Propose longer-term relationships with regular, predictable, smaller orders. Emphasize your commitment to stability. Most vendors thrive on that and will often reward it.
And finally, action step 3. Establish your own holding period. You need a rigorous filter for every purchase.
Yes, create a maximum inventory holding period. Maybe it's 30 days, maybe it's 90, whatever fits your business, and then you have to stick to it religiously. If a deal forces you to go past that limit, you walk away. That rule becomes the firewall protecting you from temptation.
So what does this all mean? Marcus Chen turned an $18,000 mistake into a $5 million enterprise because he immediately recognized that failure isn't fatal.
The true cost wasn't the 18 grand, it was the opportunity cost, the lost time.
Exactly. By building systems focused on cash velocity and operational flexibility, he ensured his capital was always working for him.
Which I think raises an important question for you to consider. Since inventory and cash flow are so tied to a company's future, how do Marcus's new systems, like that strict 60-day rule and the 15% pivot fund, how do they fundamentally change the way a company has to forecast and plan its own growth?
It shifts the focus entirely.